We're going live.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Today is Thursday, December 1st, and this is our fortnightly design meeting. Before we get into the few issues we have on the agenda, we should go around and do some introductions. I'm happy to start, and I will call on the next person at random, and they will do the same. My name is Jen Lambton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I'm very focused on user experience, and so I've got a couple of things that have bothered me for today's agenda, which we can talk about later. It is cold and rainy today here in Northern California. Martin, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Martin in the United Kingdom, and just generally care about user experience. Go to Luke.
I'm Luke McCormick in San Ramon, California, just a few miles from Jen, so it's also cold and rainy here. I'm a web project manager and just plugging into UI issues. Nothing really burning, but I want to see what's going on. So it's a Tim.
Thank you. I am Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim in Deerwood, Minnesota. It is cold and sunny here. So we got a little snow on the ground. I have been very busy with a lot of client work. Haven't been in the issue queue much lately, so I don't know what's going on there. So I'm catching up. Look forward to seeing what hot UX issues we have. We do have. We could talk about. I'm also gearing up next week. I'm going to try and focus on infrastructure stuff, our internal sites. And so I posted an invitation to anybody who wants to join me in a mini infrastructure week. We could try to get some stuff done next week. Anyways, that's it. We can talk more about that later if there's time. Let's go jump into, we don't really have any, is there any other pre-business before we jump into issues? No?
Don't think
Well,
so.
Jen, you said you had some issues you wanted to talk about. Do you want to just take over?
Yeah, sure. So why don't we do Martin's issue first? Just because I'm excited by that at the moment. So this is issue 5865 for anyone who wants to follow along later, and we're talking about the sorting table icons being confusing. Back in Drupal 7, we just had like a little caret that faced one direction or the other. And we changed it in Backdraft to using some sort icons that came as part of Font Awesome, but apparently people are finding the arrows versus the line lengths confusing. So the current proposed solution is to leave one arrow pointing down and one arrow pointing up, but to have the line lengths be the same on both icons, because right now, it says smaller to largest down, and the next one says smaller to largest up. And right now it would be largest to smallest down versus smallest to largest up. So they both would flip meaning, but the icons would be the same. So yeah, I mean, there's just kind of a lot of confusing with these issues with these icons in general. I don't know, Martin, if you had thoughts on this. There are a few comments here recently.
Looks like this has been referenced before, but just came up 9 days ago, and there's a little discussion. And I'm sharing my screen for a minute, but I'm going to quit. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your screen. That was helpful.
I don't have any. I
Insight.
agree that the way that they are at the moment, they both kind of suggest ascending, but just in different ways. But,
ascending top to bottom versus ascending bottom to top.
Yeah,
which is descending. So it makes
but you
your brain
size. I mean,
yeah, I think
the carrots, the little caret is probably the most common UX pattern for sorting, but I quite the suggestion of just making it work like what he's put in the first
I suspect that the way I handle this is I just click on it twice and see what happens. And if it doesn't go the way I want the first time, I just click again, right? But that's
Yeah.
not necessarily good UX, is it?
Yes. I think it's spelled CARET. So it's all right.
That explains when I tried
We
to
could have a
type.
little carrot icon.
When I tried to type colon to get a carrot, it showed me the orange carrot, and I'm like, that's not the carrot I want. This because I was spelling it the wrong carrot. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so I think I'm sort of on the same page with you, Martin, where I feel like these are definitely fancier icons, but they are confusing. And I think that if we can remove the amount of thinking your brain has to do to figure out which way the sort is, that would be better.
So, I mean, looking at what you've put in that post, for me, the carrot is much clearer for someone who might have trouble seeing a small arrow. So
Yeah, I think the same thing too. Like even a lot of times tables have to be kind of small to fit them all in the space available, and so that icon is going to end up shrunk down a lot smaller than maybe other icons that are used. And so I think the clearer we can be at smaller sizes, the better. So, okay. Maybe we can try that, see what other people think, and if they like it, we might have a solution for that one.
Hey, so we just need somebody to create a PR.
Woohoo. I'm gonna add a milestone candidate label on this one. Which I love adding to every issue. I'm like, ooh, this one's important. Let's do this. Okay, great. Thank you for that. The other issue I brought up is issue number 5771. This is a issue that I've run into this problem every now and then on Backdrop sites, usually when I move them to a new server, if I inherit a site from someone else, and there is a specific value for max input vars, which is a PHP setting, where if you don't have it high enough, then Backdrop will fail, but you won't get any kind of errors or indication as to why it fails. So it's one of these things that's really frustrating to debug because you don't have anything to go on. And it's bit me a couple of times, and it really got me on my Drupal 8 sites too, because they often have even bigger forms, or Drupal 9 sites or whatever. And on various hosting providers, they don't usually set you with a really high max input vars value because the default for PHP is really low. And so it is something that is, I think, pretty common, and it can happen on a lot of different interfaces in Backdrop. It can happen on the password page. It can happen on any menu that has a lot of items. It can not the password page, but the permissions page. It can happen on any node. If you have a lot of fields, or a field that has a lot of values, or something like a paragraph where you can have fields within fields, anything where you get too many elements in a form, when you hit submit on that form, it just stops at 1,000 and the rest of the items just get thrown away. And that means that the items that can get thrown away could be the submit button. And oftentimes the submit button has the form handler on it. So it can lose your data if it does manage to save but loses half your data, or it can just not do anything at all because you're not getting the submit handler to fire. So there's a lot of really strange behaviors you can encounter if you hit this problem.
In the filter permissions module, I because I had a request. It started off where it loaded the permissions page with nothing selected, and you had to select the filter. And I think it was Doc Wilmot suggested. No, not. I think it was Robert suggested it would be better the other way around. So it starts with showing everything, and then you can filter it down. So we flipped it. But what I thought would be better than just flipping it and leaving it with that potential issue that it wouldn't save. We added a warning in if if it was going to exceed the max input bars, and also disabled and hid the save button if it wasn't going to save. So the warning said you've got too many, you need to filter it down before you can save. So I think people were generally sort of happy with that approach. But
So that issue is number 3824. That will add a warning to any form that has more items than are safe to save. And if you save a form with more items, it will add an error after you save the form that says this might not have saved properly. That was a little tricky to implement in core because of the way our messaging works. Like when you submit a form, it automatically sends a message. It's like your configuration options have been saved. And if it says that at the same time, it says your options might not have been saved. It's really confusing. So I had to do a little hackery in there to get the message behavior to work appropriately. And I'm not sure core developers are going to sign off on that the way the pull request is currently formatted. So what this issue is number 5771, it just puts the error on the status report so that if your site's misconfigured, it'll be like, hey, by the way, backdrop doesn't always work when your PHP is like this. But it won't actually put those more useful errors on the form itself that's going to cause the problem, which I actually think is a better solution. And we have that a similar patch like that for Drupal 8 running on a lot of my Drupal sites, and it has saved us a lot of times, like where we originally started with a site that didn't have too many items, and then the site grew, and eventually it's like, ta-da, here's the warning, just so you know, and we're like, oh, we need to increase the value. So that's sort of a good long-term thing to have there too, where like even though what we're testing for in the status report is a specific value, like if your value is lower than this value, it might be not enough. The errors and warnings can check whatever you currently have configured versus the current number of elements on this form. So it's like a real-time feedback, which I think is a much better catch for it. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that you were able to get that into a contrib module, Martin. That's going to be a lifesaver for some people. So I added that other issue to the agenda too, just because you were talking about it, the older one that's kind of stuck, 3824. But this one is just the status report issue, which I think is good to go. It just needs someone else to review it. Maybe I should put a screenshot in the issue so people can see what it's supposed to look like. But yeah, and then it's a simpler change, so the code review should also be simpler there too. Less craziness going on. Let's see. I was just gonna do a quick check and see what else has come up recently. There's a couple of issues from Greg to clean up the status report page. Consolidation of various items like PHP related information or MySQL related information, or seems interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at the database one, but I couldn't say anything about it quickly. I'd have to spend more time.
If anyone wants to look at those, the database one is number 5864, and the PHP one is 5863.
So just a quick note that we're 1 month away from code freeze for the next minor release. I have been less engaged in core. I feel like we don't have many sort of big UX issues. I know there's been a lot of bugs getting fixed and things like that, but we have some time to identify and try to get some UX issues into the next release, if anybody has ideas, especially low hanging fruit that we could.
Can't really.
I get excited.
Certainly don't think the alt text and title is low hanging fruit.
I don't think so. We don't even have somebody to do the code on that yet, right? Or a PR.
We don't.
So I do love that issue and would love to help, but I'm not going to be able. That seems like a fairly complicated one. So but here's the. I will say, Martin, that sometimes the key to getting an issue like that moving is to just keep bringing it up very gently and reminding people it's out there. Don't give up on it. At some point, somebody with the skills will have a day free and they'll suddenly hack together a PR.
Hmm. Well, I don't have anything else that I need to talk about. Would it be worthwhile to stop this stream?
Sure, I think we could. I'll just before we stop the stream, a final pitch for last month to get things into the next release. If you have ideas, share them. There may be folks that can help get them through. And also next week, if you want to help with infrastructure, basically the forum site, the background sites, our internal sites. Let me know. I'm going to try and write a blog post tonight or tomorrow with my plans for next week. The next week at office hours would be a great time to help with that. Anyways, that's it. So should we stop? Bye, everybody. We'll see you at the next meeting. Where's my stop the screen button? There it is. Bye.